welcome to the 007 GB Club YouTube channel. I am Views from Mark. As always, as I start my own videos, I hope you're keeping safe, healthy, and are well wherever you are in the world. Today, I'm joined by a very special guest. We have Elliot Mason of Mason & Sons. Elliot, thank you very much for having us here.
Pleasure.
How are we?
Very good, thank you. All the better for seeing you.
Thank you. Well, that's always a good thing to hear. So you've invited us into your magnificent space here today in the heart of central London. This is kind of a mecca, I think, really, for any Bond enthusiast who's into his fashion and his suits, you know, going right back into the day of, you know, Sean Connery, Roger Moore, you know, you think of a lot of these iconic suits, but a name that I associate with Bond and suiting is Anthony Sinclair, as well as Mason & Sons. So can you maybe give our viewers who may not know, what is the relationship between the Anthony Sinclair name and the Mason & Sons name?
Of course. Well, Anthony Sinclair, we were involved with the Anthony Sinclair brand long before we established Mason & Sons. So there was a Mason and his son, but we just didn't have that platform or domain name registered at the time.
Okay.
So we were trading as Anthony Sinclair, doing the suit, shirts, ties, and pocket squares. And we got to a certain point and we thought, should we do a full from beach to boardroom wardrobe under the Anthony Sinclair name? Or should we do what we think James Bond would have done, or still does, and that's go to the best British brands for each category? So obviously Anthony Sinclair for his suits, but he might go to Sunspell for his swimming shorts and John Smedley for his knitwear. Well, we thought this was a very good idea. We already had relationships with some of these brands. So we thought we can't put these brands on the Anthony Sinclair website. It wouldn't make sense.
Right.
Well, we did for a short while, but it just didn't feel natural. So it's at that point that we've created the Mason & Sons website. And that's evolved over the several years, really. But now it really is just a platform for all of these wonderful British brands.
Okay, wow. So really everything under one kind of brand, one ownership, really.
Yes, I suppose it's the best analogy is Mason & Sons is like the How to Spend It magazine, and the content is from all these different brands and stories. And it's not just fashion and accessories, it's also motoring and we're going to grow that further. So it could include what do you put in your man cave, or where is your man cave, and where is your home, or where's your holiday? You know, we should really grow it out to create this sort of James Bond lifestyle.
Wow. So the limitless possibilities. So can we maybe give us a kind of an insight into how the Bond connection came to yourselves? And obviously at the time of recording this, we're in May 2023. We are technically still in the 60th year of Bond, because Dr. No was of course released in October 1962. So we are still technically in the year. And you've been quite busy, from what I can gather, with the 60th year celebrations and what you have to offer. So absolutely. I know that's a load of different questions, but if there's any information you can give us.
Yeah, of course. Well, the connection really started with my father and Anthony's apprentice, Richard Payne. So Richard owned the business after Anthony passed away. Well, before he passed away, the business was passed on to his apprentice. And after a few years of trading, Richard started making suits with his name in rather than Anthony's name. And the sort of legend was to some degree forgotten. And it wasn't until sort of mid to late early 2000s that my father discovered that Richard owned the business, and they together relaunched it. And it was pretty well timed, because it was also it was the 50th anniversary of the Bond films. And I'm sure everyone went to the Designing 007 exhibition at the Barbican that went on a world tour. It was quite a good Bond film that came out that year.
It was.
And the Queen jumped out of a helicopter with James Bond at the Olympics, which was
such a magical year when you think back to 2012. It's you know, we've obviously been through some tough years recently, all of us collectively. But you think back to 2012, and that really was a golden year for Bond content.
Yeah,
Queen jumping out of a helicopter with Daniel Craig. You know, it doesn't get much better.
Well, it was. I think it was a good year for Bond, a good year for Britain.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But to sort of fast forward onto the next question about the 60th anniversary, we thought it was a good opportunity for us to celebrate like everybody else, celebrate the franchise, but for us specifically celebrating the first Bond being Sean Connery, of course, and Dr. No is for us, it's definitely a celebratory year because we discovered that on release of Dr. No in 5th of October 1962, they didn't yet have an international licensing deal because they weren't sure if it would be a success.
Right.
So the premiere in New York wasn't until May of the following year. So last week,
nicely now then.
absolutely. So last week we went to New York to celebrate the 60th anniversary with some of our customers and friends, a few of which you know over in New York. So that was good. We didn't take the collection with us, unfortunately, couldn't fit it all into our suitcases. So we just had a party instead to celebrate.
Everybody loves a party, and yeah, I mean, how things have changed, because you can't imagine them releasing a film now and just not having every detail, like international rights, kind of buttoned down.
Yes.
You know, it's certainly a different time that we live in.
It certainly is, and to ever have imagined that it might not have been a success is quite funny.
You can't imagine it, can you? I mean, it was, all the recipe ingredients were there, so it was just a matter of time. But you mentioned the 60th collection. We've got, what I imagine is a small sampling of your 60th collection. What can you tell us about the 60th collection in general, and then what we have here today?
Well, one of the things that I found most interesting about putting it together was how wearable pretty much everything that was made for him in the 60s still is today. And that's from the styling details and the fabrics used, because we collaborated with Holland and Sherry, the fabric mill, who we know for a fact produced the Goldfinger mid-grey check, the most famous suit in the world. Holland and Sherry supplied that cloth. And unfortunately, there aren't that many original suits left to be able to verify everything, but I'm pretty certain that they would have produced most of the cloth, because I know Sinclair was a big customer of Holland and Sherry. So it made perfect sense for us to, again, promote another British brand, but also collaborate with them on the entire tailoring collection for all the different things. So the fabric was an easy one. The difficult thing was choosing the correct shade of grey on some things or blue on others. But with the help of the suits of James Bond, we were able to, and Matt Spicer, we were able to make some pretty solid decisions and a few things based, because as you can imagine, when you're trying to design things off screen grabs or especially from the 60s, it can be quite challenging. Nothing beats having a physical garment in front of you for you to be able to sort of pour through the swatch books. But I'm very happy with the selections we made on all the different fabrics. And then it was the styling detail. So we've got 5 suits here, which is a small selection of the 60-piece collection. But generally speaking, the styling details across all of them didn't vary too much. They all, apart from when you get to Diamonds Are Forever, where the lapels get a bit wider.
Yeah.
I think of all the suits that we produced, there may only have been 3 that had plain front trousers rather than having pleats.
Okay.
And the vast majority actually had jetted pockets or the straight pockets with a flap. So the Goldfinger suit is, I believe, off the top of my head, and you forgive me, the suits, all the films sort of blur into one when you talk about all the different suits, but I'm pretty sure that the Goldfinger suit is the only one that had a ticket pocket as well. And then the vast majority had side pleats, and a few had a centre vent, and bizarrely, especially by today's standards, some of them had no vent. So the brown mohair suit, for example, is ventless. And also, this happened halfway through producing the collection, and a straight cut vest became available. Now, straight cut vest you don't see them very often on a single-breasted waistcoat these days.
No.
When you see people dressed in morning suits going to Ascot and things, they're usually a double-breasted vest, so they always have them. So it meant we were able to produce 2 other suits from the collection that we didn't think, two other suits from the films, and we were able to add them to collection because this new styling detail became available to us. So that was quite exciting. And then these are a few of my favorites. So I can
let's go through that.
Yeah, one down. So this is and you can probably tell on this one that this is the Diamonds Are Forever Air Force Blue suit with a quite unusual configuration on the pockets for a two-piece suit. So it almost has blazer pocketing with the patch pockets on the side and also on the chest. And as I mentioned before, this particular suit has the plain front, which is a bit more of moving away from the 60s into the 70s, the pleats starting to go out the window.
And they still come with the Anthony Sinclair label in the breast pocket there.
That's absolutely right. And usually the cloth merchant label as well. So in this case, Holland and Sherry label.
So it's quite an unusual front pocket design, to have the pocket so visible on the front there.
It is. You tend to see it more on blazers when to have a patch pocket on the chest pocket. So it's quite an interesting one to have. It makes it very casual. So it's quite a quirky one, really. And this, out of the 5 suits that I pulled out today, this is probably, of this 5, this one has been one of the most popular, and that is a mid-grey mohair suit from Dr. No. So this is very good. Is that for a day like today where it's sort of starting to push on to the 20s, it's a little bit humid. Mohair is a very good fabric, and it was extremely popular in the 60s, but it seems to be just popular with our customers today.
Yeah.
And this configuration, out of all of the different styling configurations of suit, this configuration is the one that you see most through the collection. So it's got a slim lapel, not I wouldn't say it's narrow. Connery's looked narrow because of how broad he was.
Yeah. Very, very physically fit, wasn't he?
Absolutely. So we didn't want to make suits that looked as narrow, that we didn't want to make suits with the lapels that looked as narrow as on Connery's, because not everybody's quite as broad as him. So what we would have ended up with is a lot of skinny lapels. And we really want to continue this as a sort of timeless styling details, really. So we call this our slim lapel. It's got jetted pockets, side vents, 4-button cuff, and the trousers on these have the Dax button and tab, side adjuster, and double forward pleats. So that style is the same on the brown mohair and quite a few others in the collection. And I'll just show you this one, and then please feel free to ask me any question about the others. But this one is the only single button jacket. And for me, I was surprised really at how popular this one. I wasn't expecting this to be one of the more popular suits, mainly because of how bright the blue is.
It's very vivid, isn't it?
Very vivid. So I wasn't sure because, pre-COVID, our top selling suits were always dark navies and dark greys for obvious reasons. And that's really changed. And I was pleasantly surprised at how many customers went for this in such a, as you say, vivid blue.
Yeah, no, it's beautiful, beautiful color, very rich. So, and this suit is You Only Live Twice, if I'm not mistaken?
That is right, sir.
Excellent. No, it is a beautiful color. And I think the really interesting thing is what you said earlier, is that where these suits have come back now as part of the 60th collection, the style and the fashion, it's still as timeless today as it was back in 1962, Is that something that was a conscious decision going into this?
Absolutely. It was a very important decision because, especially because of the time of year, I didn't bring up the flannel suits, and most of them are quite dark anyway, so it's difficult to sort of pick out the styling details in person. But I've got no doubt that when Connery was having his flannel suits made, the flannel would have been 18 ounce, 19 ounce, 20 ounce, but that by today's standards is far too heavy. So we opted for sort of 9, 10, 11 ounce flannels, just because we go from heated cars to heated buildings, heated public transport, that wearing a heavy duty flannel suit, especially in a city, and most of our customers are actually in cities all around the world, it just seemed like we should probably update that detail slightly.
Yeah.
It's just too much otherwise.
Well, it makes you think as well, considering, the character of Bond and the movies in general. He's jet setting around to all these far-flung foreign destinations that are very exotic most of the time and warm temperatures anyway. So to go in with a thick flannel suit, as you say, must have, even back in the day, been quite a struggle.
Yeah, well, the number of suits that were in the early film was so few that I think when we first see him in Jamaica, he arrives wearing a flannel suit.
Yeah, in the airport scene.
That's
that
right.
classic scene where he's being stalked by two people. One of them you're not so sure about. Well, both of them you're not so sure about, but one of them ultimately turns out to be his pal Felix. So, I mean, this is, as you say, this is just a snapshot of the collection. How many suits do you have in the 60th collection in total?
So it's made up of shirts, ties, pocket squares, a bow tie, some cufflinks, 2 overcoats, a midnight blue dinner suit, the ecru dinner jacket. Then there is 2 doeskin blazers, one with gunmetal buttons, one with brass buttons. There's the Barleycorn tweed hacking jacket, which is extremely popular, and the half Norfolk jacket, which is also getting very popular indeed. And then we have several flannel suits, 3, maybe 4 mohair suits. I think 3 mohair suits. And what else do we have? And the trousers that go along with the different blazers. So there's quite a lot there. It's if you had the entire collection, you probably wouldn't ever need it. It would cover every eventuality that you could possibly find yourself in. So it's probably, if you wanted to dress head to toe in that style of clothing, you would be set for life with that entire collection. More than, and you'd have more than enough of different options.
Oh, absolutely. So,
And one, actually, I almost forgot my favorite suit from the collection, which again isn't here.
my next question. Yeah, go on.
Is the because it's just quite a quirky one, really. And it would be very easy to go for one of the dark blues or dark greys, but I really like the brown houndstooth flannel suit that Connery wore with the contrast waistcoat, partly because of the controversy of wearing brown in town. So I quite enjoy that one.
Well, I mean, as suits go, I mean, as you've said as well, there's such a range that you've got in part of this 60th collection that it caters to pretty much any eventuality that you should find yourself in, much like Bond. You never know what occasion you're going to be walking into. But say, for example, one of our club members or anyone who happens to be watching this, say they wanted to take you up on one of your suits. What's the best way for people to go about that? And what would the process look like? Would they just go online and place an order, or do they come into?
The majority of people we see in person, it's very rare, or we try to limit how much business we do just online, because our background really is in bespoke tailoring, which is all about fit. So it's very rare that somebody is a perfect size 40 slim fit regular. It's very rare. So if you see people in person, it's always our preference. Having said that, we've got customers all over the world that we've not been able to see. So we do our best, and usually they send us measurements from one of their best fitting suits.
Right.
We can then compare against our different size guides to find them the suit that's closest to their fit. And if we're confident, we can make a few tweaks. But more often than not, customers will make an inquiry through the website or give us a phone call to book an appointment to see us here. Or we have a home in Houston, Texas, and then we do a lot of trunk shows in the US. And usually we stay in hotels and customers visit us there, or we visit customers at their office or at the home. But if we can see somebody in person, it makes a world of difference.
Yeah.
And for the made to measure, which is what we've been looking at today, the process is very simple. We discuss fabric, styling options, and then we take a series of measurements to give us a sort of basis of fit, really, so that we can start creating this fit profile. And then we have these very useful tools, which are trial garments. Effectively, we have suits in all the 3 different lengths, 2 different body fits, from the very smallest to the very biggest. So we've got 36 different suits that we use just to assess fit with.
Wow.
So it's a very accurate way of making a suit that is made straight to finish, which is different to bespoke, because bespoke you have several fittings and you sort of go on the journey with the garment as it's made. But the try-on garments give us, well, it gives the customer a lot of confidence because they get a very good idea of what to expect.
Yeah.
And it gives us a lot of confidence because we know what the changes are we have to make to really perfect fit.
Yeah. It doesn't get much better than that, does it? I mean, and in terms of your complete bespoke service, I know that there is, we've got another video that we're shooting separate to this one. And you don't have anything here to show us, but we're good to go? Things are looking good on that one?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. So they're two very different beasts. It's difficult to compare made to measure and bespoke because they really are two different things. I mean, bespoke is really like having a couture garment made from scratch for you, totally unique, and the options are limitless, and nothing should not be possible for anything else to ever fit you as well as a bespoke or couture garment because it has been made for you by a trained cutter first and foremost, and
the best in the world. I mean, Britain has the best.
They do, and our cutters have been doing it. I think we were joking the other day that they've got over, they've got probably around 100 years of experience between two of them. So they knew what we're doing between two of them. Yeah.
Wow, incredible, absolutely incredible. Well, we can't wait to see how that develops. I mean, it sounds like an absolutely incredible service, and I know as well that you're very generous in providing a lot for the forthcoming HMS Belfast Gala evening, where someone will ultimately be able to get that bespoke service and experience exactly what you've just described. So again, thank you for that. And all that's left to be said really is, Elliot, thank you so much for your time today and showing us through this sample of the 60th collection of Mason & Sons tailored suits. And if you want to check out more, we'll put some links in the description below, and also some links to Mason & Sons social media presence, because they do have one. And yeah, again, Elliot, thank you so much. Hope you've enjoyed this video, folks. If you have, please do give it a thumbs up. If you haven't already subscribed, do hit the subscribe button and hit the bell notification button so you get a notification every time we post something new. And until the next time, keeping the British end up, this is Views from Mark, reporting live, so to speak, from Mason & Sons here in the heart of central London.